When it comes to controllers and the elite, we commonly refer to them. There is a spiritual battle going on, and we know it is not against flesh and blood that we fight, but the principalities in this present darkness. As followers of Christ, we battle on the side of good. So when anyone asks you who they or them are when we talk about them, we tell people we mean Satan and all his minions, dead and alive. This battle is the battle of us versus them. In this battle, however, followers of Yeshua know that we will be victorious, and that, really, the battle is already won. It seems that they either have no knowledge or refuse to believe in what we as Christ followers know. After all, they are all about secrets and lies, while Jesus is all about knowledge and truth for any who seek to walk with him. I will return to this thought later. First, let's recap some things we already know about them. It has become common knowledge in this community that duality is important in the so-called elite's religious and spiritual beliefs, lifestyles, and rituals. This is seen with the black and white clothing, Freemason floors, yin and yang, and a plethora of other ways. One way they see duality in the Luciferian way of thinking is that Lucifer is good, and we humans are being held imprisoned on Earth by what they call the Demiurge. Lucifer and the Demiurge are a split of one being that must come back together. The Demiurge being the darkness and Lucifer the light. Their belief is one day the two will unite again in order to ascend to their lost estate, as they call it, and to elevate mankind along with them. Unfortunately, only they who are enlightened to this knowledge will ascend, while the rest of us will perish. I am sure you can already see how this lie is a hijacking of the truth in Jesus Christ. The ascended believe they will become gods themselves, equal to God, after unity of the Demiurge and Lucifer. Just as there is duality of one spirit in the spirit realm, they believe there is duality in the earthly realm. That all of us have a yin and a yang that must unite in order to ascend. They believe even before this unity of Lucifer and the Demiurge, they can do works here on earth to achieve enlightenment, unity of self, duality, ascension, and godhood. If you have not yet seen Saturn Rising, please do so, as I mention Hermetic alchemy and the enlightenment and ascension steps they believe in. I mention the stages of black, which is sleep, white is enlightenment to truth, red, the acceptance phase, and finally gold, ascension. When you look at Hollywood, you'll often see these four colors displayed pointing to their goal on Earth. For instance, Mickey Mouse contains all four of these colors on his person, so to speak, his clothing and his body color. Pay attention to actors, singers, entertainers, and you will notice this theme often. It could be all in one outfit or in the scene around them, or may change throughout a music video or movie. I remind you of my video, The Spider Queen. Warning, if you have not seen it, there is graphic content in the video. Be praying the full armor of God from Ephesians 6, 10 through 20 beforehand. That is advised. Just to explain simply, there are many in the art and entertainment world that like to connect with certain creatures on this earth, such as the owl, rabbit, spider, centipede, and so on. In that video, I spoke about an artist named Louise Bourgeois, a woman who was obsessed with dark and gruesome arts, especially spiders. She created massive, hideous spider sculptures that have been known and praised throughout the art world. And she also created a sculpture that she named Arch of Hysteria, which you may recognize as a sculpture owned by Tony Podesta. This pose is widely known to occur in people who are demonically possessed, and it seems to be something the entertainment industry loves to show us in plain sight. It also turns out to be a pose of ascension. Several artists and entertainers perform this pose in their dancing and videos, either as a nod to who they serve, what they believe, or because they are physically possessed. I would venture to say all of that is true. Some specific examples of singers that I've seen in this pose are Beyonce, Miley Cyrus, Katy Perry, David Lee Roth, and Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish herself has a love for spiders. She is seen photographed with them on her face and even in her mouth. She sings a song called You Should See Me in a Crown, where she imagines herself in animation as a spider queen who eats a town of people, vomits them all up, creating mindless clones that worship her. Recently I watched the movie by Jordan Peele entitled Us. Peele wrote and directed this movie, as well as the movie Get Out. If you are not aware, I made a 2-part series of the movie Get Out back in June of 2019. Please watch them both, as there was massive symbolism in that movie I found profoundly thought-provoking, and continues to apply in what I researched today. Much like the movie Get Out, the movie Us is chock full of imagery and symbolism, and I've come to comprehend what Jordan Peele is really trying to make this movie about. So without further ado, let's dive in. The movie Us starts out in the year 1986, zooming in on a TV that shows a commercial for Hands Across America, a Unity hoax from the controllers of the 1980s that really got very little recognition and certainly brought about no change. In fact, it was regarded as quite insignificant overall, even though many celebrities tried to push it. As the camera zooms in, I can see a figure hanging on the left, but I could not find its origins, and I also saw several movies surrounding the TV, including The Man with Two Brains, Chud, Nightmare on Elm Street, Goonies, The Right Stuff, and one I couldn't see the title of. Interestingly enough, Chud and the Goonies are underground movies, and The Man with Two Brains is speaking about a man who has two consciousnesses. The TV commercial goes on to a news brief from Channel 11 News at 11. The 11:11 symbolism is a constant theme in the movie. 11 by itself is known as a number for disobedience, but also 11:11 means symmetry or synchronicity. In the next scene, a little girl and her parents are on the Santa Cruz boardwalk, still in 1986. She is holding a candied apple while her dad wins her a t-shirt as a prize at a game booth. The little girl considers the options, Thriller being choice number 11 and Black Flag is choice number 13. She chooses the number 11, the Thriller shirt, and her dad mentions it is the little girl's birthday. Birthdays are a pagan ritual that celebrates self and love of self. This is noteworthy regarding Jordan Peele's probable spiritual beliefs. The number 11 was important to Peele. In fact, Peele asked the cast to watch 11 horror movies while filming Us. He asked them to watch Jaws from 1975, Dead Again from 1991, The Shining from 1980, The Babadook from 2014, It Follows from 2014, A Tale of Two Sisters 2003, The Birds 1963, Funny Games 1997, Martyrs 2008, Let the Right One In 2008, and The Sixth Sense 1999. Feel free to watch or look up the synopses of all these movies. I did, and it was very interesting and more of a trivia for me. I won't go into all the connections here, as this would be an entire video of its own, which maybe one day I'll do. As the family travels down the boardwalk, and the little girl also holding her candy apple, her mother mentions a movie that is being filmed and perhaps they're looking for extras. This is a nod to the movie Lost Boys that was being filmed on the Santa Cruz boardwalk in 1986. The little girl's dad is drinking spirits and goes on to play whack-a-mole where the carny is wearing a Black Flag t-shirt and the mother heads to the bathroom. In this moment, when mother and father's attention is off her, the little girl seems to feel a pull from somewhere and begins to walk in that direction. She passes a man who holds a sign that reads Jeremiah 11:11. Jeremiah chapter 11 verse 11 reads, "Therefore thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them." The little girl then walks to stairs that lead to the beach, walks down them onto the beach, and witnesses a lightning storm. She looks left, spotting a carnival house of mirrors called Vision Quest, Find Yourself, depicting Native American imagery. She drops the candied apple, never to be eaten, in the sand as it begins to rain, and she walks straight into the house of mirrors. On entry, an owl with red-lighted eyes pops out of the wall, startling the girl, and honestly, me too. And you can hear a voiceover who happens to be Jordan Peele speaking about, quote, Taiwa creating the Spider-Woman, end quote. This movie makes quite a few spider references, which is why I mentioned in my previous video the Spider Queen. I felt that there was a connection. I researched Taiwa and the Spider Queen and learned that the Spider Queen is the controller of the magic of the Belows in the Hopi Indian creation mythology. She marries Taiwa, the sun god, and together they form the earth between them. They create mankind in the caverns of the earth and later lead them to the earth's surface. Specifically sticking out as interesting to me is that the Spider Queen controls all the magic of the Belows. As the little girl is walking through the house of mirrors and the voice is still speaking about Taiwa and the Spider Queen, the electricity suddenly shuts off. And after the electricity goes out, the girl tries to get out of the house of mirrors. But of course, this is difficult because of the mirrors and darkness. In her nervousness and her fear, she begins to whistle Itsy Bitsy Spider, backs up not to a reflection but a replica of her standing with its back to her back. She turns around and the mirror image does not. When the mirror image girl does turn around, the little girl becomes terrified, and then the scene cuts to the introduction to the movie. Switch to present day, where little Adelaide has grown up and is riding with her family somewhere. On the back window is one of those family stickers on the car that resembles her family. She is married and has a teenage girl and a boy that appears to be about 11 years old. Adelaide's husband's name is Gabe, presumably Gabriel. Daughter is named Zora, and son Jason. The name Zora means dawn. Jason, Adelaide's son, may be a nod to Friday the 13th, which I will mention again later. Adelaide, the name, means noble one, of nobility. The family is driving to their beach house, where Adelaide apparently used to visit frequently with her mother and grandmother. While driving, the parents point to the fact that their teen daughter, Zora, who is wearing a shirt with a white rabbit on it, and she will be wearing a shirt with a white rabbit on it throughout the entire movie, is a competitive runner, and her father mentions how running on the sand is good training. Jason wears a mask with an angry gorilla face. This could be the first nod to Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees, who hides behind a mask, but also would have double meaning, pointing to the black race being made out as animalistic or ape-like in nature. Before you think I'm saying ignorant racist things, please watch my Nipsey Hussle video where I explain exactly what I mean by this and how it's still being done today by the controllers. The racists are the controllers who own what is called the boule. I am merely the messenger of truth. While driving, Zora mentions how the government uses fluoride, a poison, to control people. When no one responds, she says, "Oh, I forgot, no one cares about the end of the world." This is a foreshadowing to remember regarding government control over people. The song I Got Five on It, which is from the 90s, comes on the radio. And this song is about two people going in on a drug purchase, which sadly the teen girl seems to know, and Gabe the father is singing along, indicative of the weaponization of rap in the black culture and communities. Adelaide turns to Jason and snaps her fingers a little offbeat, and Jason joins in the snapping, also a little offbeat. This is the first indication of a possible deeper connection between these two. They arrive at their destination, a lovely house on a lake away from regular city life. They get food, and when the family eats, Adelaide eats only red strawberries, very delicately at that, as everyone else eats fried chicken and french fries. While eating, Adelaide has a memory back to after the incident at the House of Mirrors when she was a child. The view is of her parents. She can see them in the mirror at an office, talking to what is apparently a psychologist, while Adelaide plays with toys. Her parents are asking this counselor what can they do because their daughter won't speak at all and has not told them what happened to her that night in the House of Mirrors. Adelaide watches from a distance, playing with animal toys and lining them up. The counselor suggests they get her into the arts like drawing, writing, or dancing so she can, quote, tell her story, end quote. Ironically, Adelaide's mother says, quote, "I just want my little girl back," end quote. Her dad then walks out and walks by Adelaide, and his gestures to try to love on her seem as if she really is kind of alien to him. Back to present day, Adelaide, while resting on the couch, watches a real spider walk past a toy spider. The obvious focus on the spider got my attention about the Spider Queen again. As Adelaide is resting and reading, her husband Gabe suggests they all go to the beach. This idea causes Adelaide a lot of anxiety, and she at first says no to this plan. Her husband convinces her, as they have some friends who are going to be out there that they can meet up with. She says, all right, they can go if they leave the beach before it gets dark, and he agrees. Adelaide starts looking for Jason around the house and heads into a basement where she appears to have many memories. There's an area with a mirror and a ballet bar, and she pulls out a little white rabbit toy from a drawer and pets it while smiling. Adelaide sees herself dancing as a little girl and looking back at her in the mirror. Meanwhile, looking in the mirror in the bathroom, Zora is scared when Jason jumps out from hiding underneath the bathroom sink with his mask on. He runs and hides in a closet where he keeps the door from latching closed with an ambulance toy. Zora walks by and kicks in the toy, which latches the door shut. Adelaide is awakened from her daydream by the pounding and crying of Jason on the closet door. Obviously, there's no knob on the inside of this door. The family sets out for the beach to spend time with their friends, Josh and Kitty. As they near the beach, they see a man on a stretcher being brought out of a house and taken to the back of an ambulance. He appears to have blood spilled from several wounds, and he is holding that sign we saw in the beginning of the movie that read Jeremiah 11:11. Adelaide's anxiety becomes palpable. They get to the beach, and we learn they are back at the Santa Cruz beach and boardwalk of Adelaide's childhood encounter. She sees the old House of Mirrors, which has been updated and renamed for present-day ideals, now with wizard imagery. As the family walks toward the beach, the view is from an aerial view of their long shadows stretching beside them. Jason's mask faces upwards toward the camera. Gabe and Adelaide sit next to their friends, Josh and Kitty, while the kids go closer to the water to play. Josh and Kitty are typical superficial wealthy white people who brag about having a nice yacht, having bought a new expensive car, and Kitty even mentions having recently gotten cosmetic surgery on her face. They have 2 teenage twins named Becca and Lindsay. While trying to chat Adelaide up, Kitty asks if Adelaide is okay as she appears uncomfortable. Adelaide says, sorry, she's just not good at talking to people, seemingly a clue about Adelaide and her personality, which is proven to be quite introverted. Meanwhile, Jason is making sand tunnels in the sand, which the twins ruin by doing cartwheels over them, after which the twins approach Zora and tell her that her brother is weird. One twin is wearing a Black Flag t-shirt, and they behave similarly as twins would, jinxing each other several times, which is annoying to most people. Jason heads towards the old mirror house to find a bathroom and sees a man standing with his back to him, his hands out and blood dripping from his fingers. Just then, a frisbee flies between Adelaide and Kitty, causing Adelaide to jump in fear. All of a sudden, people around her seem to be louder, raising her anxiety levels. Adelaide panics and starts looking for Jason. She runs toward the house of mirrors and finds him by the bathroom, and he assures her he was only using the restroom as she frantically checks him for any changes or wounds or whatever. Once everyone is assured that Jason is fine, they decide to go back to the vacation home. Back home, Gabe is watching a basketball game, and we hear the score is 11-11. This seems to be unsettling for Adelaide, and Gabe asks if she's all right. She says yes and goes to say goodnight to her kids. She merely walks by her daughter's room and says lights out and phone off. When she puts Jason to bed, he has his mask on, and she looks at him, then says mask off and puts it in a dresser drawer. She sits with Jason again and tells him to stick with her, and she will always keep him safe, which again is a little subtle nod to Jason Voorhees. They have a special hand gesture where they each put one hand up together, then curl their fingers together. Jason points at the clock that says 11:11 and says, look. Adelaide looks uncomfortable and says, yes, it's bedtime. After tucking Jason in, she notices a drawing that he drew of the back of his own head, seeing the man on the beach with the coat and the bleeding fingertips. She asks, who's this? And Jason just shrugs, I don't know. After she goes to her room with her husband Gabe, who appears to want to get it on, Adelaide stares out the window into the night. She informs Gabe that she wants to go home. Things don't feel right and she doesn't feel like herself. As she speaks, her voice trembles and she sounds terrified. Gabe responds that she looks like herself. This doesn't ease her unease, so she tells Gabe about what happened to her in her childhood, as she has never told him this before. As she recalls it, after becoming terrified of the other her, she just ran and ran until she got away from that mirror house. Gabe, of course, consoles her for having held on to this secret for so long. She continues to explain that this other her is still looking for her, and because of so many recent coincidences, such as the 11:11 coincidences, she believes this other her is getting closer. Suddenly, the electricity goes out, and Gabe says, this is why Josh and Kitty have a backup generator. Jason startles them both as he's lurking in the doorway with his mask back on the top of his head and says, there's a family standing in our driveway. As they go look, they see there is what looks like a family standing in the driveway holding hands. They are backlit and hard to see. Gabe tries to talk with them from afar, and they just stand and stare. Adelaide calls the police with Zora's phone and tells Zora to get her shoes on. It's as if she has some understanding of what they will be dealing with because, recall, Zora is a runner. Why not tell everyone to put on their shoes? Meanwhile, it seems that police will have a hard time coming out to help them anytime soon. Gabe, not getting a friendly response from the family outside when he tries to call out to them, tries to threaten the family for coming to the wrong house while holding a baseball bat. At this, one of the family members makes a creepy clicking sound, and the 2 younger ones head off into the trees around the house, and the bigger father figure begins to walk towards Gabe. Gabe, now frightened, runs back into the house and locks the door. Someone bangs at the front door several times. Jason starts backing away scared, and he sees a kid with a mask covering his whole head looking creepily in through the window at him. When the banging on the front door stops, someone starts whistling Itsy Bitsy Spider. Whoever is outside the door immediately goes to the hide-a-key rock and unlocks the door. Before long, everyone is in the house, and they've all gathered into the sitting room where Adelaide, Jason, Zora, and Gabe sit terrified, realizing they are seeing exact but very horrifying replicas of themselves. Jason says, it's us. The other family all wear the same red jumpsuit. The boy, instead of a face mask, wears a white fabric full head covering with only his mouth and eyes showing. He behaves like a monkey crouched and walking on his hands. The other Zora just smiles creepily. The other Gabe has a longer beard and looks very intimidating and angry. The other Adelaide carries gold scissors in her right hand that also wears a glove. In fact, they are all wearing a glove only on their right hands. As Gabe tries to speak, The other Adelaide, or OA as I will refer to her from now on, begins to tell a story of how there was a girl who had a shadow. OA's voice is very raspy, and she has a speech impediment that the actress copied from Robert Kennedy's spasmodic dysphonia. She goes on with the story. When the girl was hungry, she received warm and tasty meals. When the shadow had to eat rabbit, cold and bloody. At Christmas, when the girl got presents that were plush and soft, the shadow got cold and sharp presents that cut her when she tried to play with them. When the girl grew up and met her prince, OA met Abraham. It didn't matter whether she loved him or not, because he was tethered to the girl's prince. And when she had her first baby, it was a beautiful baby girl, but OA had a monster that was born laughing, and she named her Umbre. The word umbre means a dark area, especially the blackest part of a shadow from which all light is cut off. The story continues. When the girl had a second baby, he had to be cut from his mother's stomach by doctors describing a C-section, while OA had to do it all by herself. She named the boy Pluto, who loves to play with fire. Pluto is the Roman name of Hades, the Greek and Roman god of the underworld and ruler of the dead. OA then reaches out with handcuffs towards Adelaide, saying, "Tether yourself to the table." Adelaide and her family look terrified, and she says okay she will do this, but begs OA not to hurt her children. OA makes some noise to Abraham, where he walks up to Gabe, grabs Gabe's glasses, and puts them on, noticing he can see differently, better. None of the family seems capable of speech, and they only grunt and yell, except for OA. Abe then drags Gabe out of the house, where we hear him hollering, but we can't see what's happening. OA looks at Zora and says, "Little girl, run." Adelaide looks at Zora and nods yes, telling her to do it. Zora runs out of the house and down the street very quickly. Umbre follows, walking, and waits until Zora is out of sight before she starts running. Back in the house, OA tells Jason and Pluto to go play. Adelaide whispers to him to show Pluto one of his tricks, as Jason is always trying to show a trick with a finger toy, but really doesn't seem to know how to use it. The boys go off to sit in Jason's closet, where he puts the ambulance toy in the door to keep it from latching. Zora is still being chased by Umbre, who catches up to her, and it becomes the game of cat and mouse. Umbre gets distracted by a man who yells at the girls, and Zora runs back to the house safely. Back in the closet, Jason is trying to make his finger trick toy work while Pluto lights a match. Jason gives up on the toy in fear and puts his hands up, and right then he learns that Pluto begins to mimic his movements. Pluto then pulls Jason's mask down. When Jason pulls it back up, Pluto pulls his face mask up, showing old burn scars all over his neck and the lower half of his face. Jason tries his finger trick again and gets the thing to spark, which startles Pluto, giving Jason the chance to get away and lock Pluto in the closet. Meanwhile, OA is pushing Adelaide's face into the mirrored glass table that she is tethered to, showing the obvious shattered mind altar symbolism of the shattering glass and mirror image. When she hears Pluto screaming, Adelaide says, "That's yours." OA jumps up to find and rescue Pluto, and they go search for Jason. Adelaide is able to get a fireplace poker and break the wood off the table that she's tethered to, though she's still wearing the handcuffs. She's able to find Jason hiding in the bathroom where he was hiding when he scared Zora. They escape and get out of the house. Zora has just returned. While all this was going on, Gabe was able to kill Abe when Abe took Gabe out on Gabe's boat to kill him and dump his body in the water. After some battling, Gabe overcame Abe and he was ground up in the motor. Gabe is back with the boat and tells everyone to jump in, and they get away from the 3 surviving other family members. I'm going to do a part 2 on this video only because of the length of time it would have taken to put it all in one video. You are going to want to watch part 2 of this video because I am going to go over the symbolism and what it all means. The reason I have gone into depth in the movie is because I want you guys to have such a clear picture that you really don't even have to ever watch it yourselves, but please feel free to do so if you want to. It's a little bit traumatic. It's a lot more serious than even I can really tell it in this script, but there are so much imagery that I'm going to explain that comes all the way back around to other videos I have done, and the connections I think are exciting. So look forward to that. It's coming out in the next 48 hours.